Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi. My name is Guy Kawasaki, and I am the chief evangelist of a company called Canva. It's an online graphics design service. I am also on the board of trustees of Wikimedia, which is the entity that runs Wikipedia. In the category of somebody has to do it, I'm a Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador. And finally, my academic legitimacy, to the extent that there is any, is that I am an executive fellow at the Haas School of Business of UC Berkeley. So that's who I am. I am talking to you today about the art of the start. So unlike the experts that are here in education specifically, I am not an education expert as much as a person who is going to talk about starting companies. So my topic is entrepreneurship more than education, if you will. I worked in the Macintosh division from 1983 to 1987. This meant that I worked for Steve Jobs, of course, who was a remarkable person. I would not be where I am were it not for Steve Jobs. He definitely changed the world. And should I move? that division, the Macintosh division, was probably the largest collection of egomaniacs in the history of California. We held that record for a good 30 years. Facebook broke it, but we held that record. And you know, back then, Apple was divided into the Macintosh division, which was not yet finished with the product, and there was the Apple II division, which was shipping and making all the money. So if you looked at the Apple P&L, the P was Apple II and the L was Macintosh. But we would not let Apple II division employees into the Macintosh division building. So that caused some internal problems, basically because we were so arrogant. And the Macintosh division was the butt of a great Apple II division joke, which is how many Macintosh division employees does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is one, because the Macintosh division employee holds up the light bulb and expects the universe to revolve around him. Yeah. How many of you use Macintoshes in this room? Oh, thank you, God. The Microsoft version, somebody here from GSV is Microsoft a sponsor of this conference? No? They are? Oh, shit. Should I tell you the joke or not? Yeah. Okay. So what are they going to do? Not invite me back next year? All right. Yeah, make my day. So the Microsoft version of this joke is how many Microsoft employees does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is none, because Bill Gates has declared darkness the new standard. So listen, I probably like many of you, I have been watching tech speakers for about 30 years. And with a rare exception, I've noticed two things about tech speakers. First, almost all of them suck, seriously. And the second thing I notice is that they go long. I mean, longer than their slot. And that is a difficult combination. You know, if you suck and you're short, who cares? And if you're great and you're long, who cares? But if you suck and go long, that's like being stupid and arrogant. It's just a bad combination. So what I do is I use the top 10 format for my speeches, so that in case you think I suck, you know approximately how much longer I'll suck. I have exactly 10 points. So this is the art of the start. This is everything that I learned as an Apple employee, as an entrepreneur, as a venture capitalist. And I hope that you can take some of this information and change the world with it. Okay? The Art of the Start 2.0. So, the first thing that I learned is, why would this slide be so messed up? Because, this slide is just wrong. I mean, and it's not me. The bottom half, okay, so just picture this, that this is a very Zen-like picture of two teacups on a block of wood. It's from Portland at the Japanese park. And I don't know why the top part is still the art of hitter, but it is you know, anybody can give a speech if everything goes right. Okay, so you're going to see what happens when slides don't work. I bet you the clicker doesn't work because this is hooked up to a Windows machine. So we'll just, you know what I'm saying? Like anybody can look good if everything goes right. So step one is to ask simple questions. And by this I mean, I think many entrepreneurs, they look at the accomplishments of a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, Sergey and Larry, and they say, my God, these people had great plans. Google had a plan. They'll do search, and then they'll do mail, and then they'll do analytics, and they'll social media, and then they'll do glasses, and then do cars. And Apple had this grand plan from Cupertino's garage, where first they'd have an Apple II, and then they'd have an Apple III, and then they'll have a Macintosh, an iPhone, iPod, iPad. They'll have an iTunes store. They'll have a watch. And there's these great plans for total domination of the universe. And I'll tell you something, my observation is that great companies start because people ask very simple questions, not about worldwide domination. And there are questions like this, and God help me when I press this slide, I hope the questions show, so we will see. Okay, God as my witness. I came here 1 hour early, and I tested these slides on that computer. So, man, you are going to see the most messed up, technically, presentation I have ever given. That is something. You could say this is like being at Woodstock. Okay, so pretend that you only see therefore what. Okay? So the first question you ask, simple question, is therefore what? And what I mean by this is you have some vision for the world, and you ask yourself, therefore, what companies are necessary? So if you believe that, for example, everybody's going to have a phone, and that phone is going to have a camera, and every phone with a camera is on this thing called the internet, and you can upload files, therefore what? You might start Flickr. You might start SmugMug. So this is where you see a vision, where you see that the world is going to be the Internet of Things. And then you decide, well, therefore what? What company should I start? Simple question. Now pretend I press this button, and the second question comes up. And it says, isn't this interesting? So the way this works is you're an engineer, or a bunch of engineers, and you create this product. You're trying to create something. Maybe it's even chemistry, and you screw up. What you intended to do doesn't work at all. But the finding that you have, the result of this mistake, is still interesting. And the classic example that everyone cites in American business is, of course, 3M. Because 3M is in the adhesives business. Typically, you want to make the strongest adhesive that you can. But every once in a while, you screw up and you make a very weak adhesive, and that becomes Post-it pads. Isn't this interesting? And I'm going to click again, and I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, it worked. All right. So the third thing is to ask, isn't there a better way? So this is where you're sitting in a garage in Cupertino, and you say to your buddy, why is it to use a computer we have to drive to Stanford? We have to go to NASA Ames. We have to work for the government. We have to go to work for HP. Why is that? Why can't computers be smaller and cheaper and easier to use? Is there a better way? So my contention is that great companies start because they ask very simple questions, right? Have a vision, therefore what? Isn't this interesting, this accidental discovery? Or is there a better way? Why do things suck so badly? Is there a better way? The next thing, oh my God. If you want to try to fix this while I talk, I can't. This is the place where we could make this really great viral video. Okay, so I throw down a clicker, I rip off my mic, I storm out of here because I'm so pissed off that the technology doesn't work. But I'm not going to do that because only prima donnas would do that, and that video would live forever. It's not my fault that the hosts of this organization force people to use Windows laptops. Okay? I'm not going to hold it against those guys in the AV group back there. They probably would prefer to use Macintoshes. I'm a cool guy. I can understand this. So point number 2 is to make what I call an MVVVP. You all know what MVP is, right? Minimum viable product. Well, I think we should add 2 more V's to this. We're going to see what happens now. The first V is viable. You already know about that. Eric Ries, fantastic work. You know, get it out. Don't worry, be crappy is how I describe this. The second V is valuable. Valuable is a different test. Oh, now I'm going to sneeze. This is just not my day. You know, this is, can I tell you a funny story? So, on Saturday, I spoke for 16,000 people at the Arbonne Global Convention. Arbonne is a service that sells, it's like a multi-level marketing. They sell nutritional and beauty products. And it was at the MGM Grand. And it's in the MGM Grand, the part of the MGM, the auditorium, where you can seat 16,000 people. So it was 16,000 women and me. And so it's not like this where, you know, I'm only talking to 180 degrees. It's 360, so you're in the middle. And there's 16,000 women literally all around you. And I had to sneeze. And, you know, usually when you sneeze or you have to do something embarrassing, you can turn away because, you know, then you wouldn't see. But when they're in the round, anyway, so the second V is valuable. Maybe I'm just allergic to Windows laptops. Yeah, that would explain it. So the second V is valuable. So what I'm saying here is you could have a product that's viable but not valuable. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, ask yourself if what we're doing is valuable. It's not simply making a buck. And the third V is that it's validating. It validates your vision for your prediction of how the world will evolve. So I'll give you a negative example. Let's say that Apple decides that it's going to make laser printers again. It's going to start selling laser printers. Okay? So you go down the Apple store, you know, you buy your phone, you buy your laptop, buy that laptop that only has one connector because, you know, you never have to plug anything else into a laptop but power. So you buy this, and now you're about to buy a laser printer, Apple label laser printer. Would you do it? Absolutely. Apple could sell a lot of laser printers. Totally viable. They can sell it for more than they make it. Is it valuable? Is it making the world a better place for Apple to sell a laser printer? Not at all. Is it validating? What would it validate? What concept, what higher thing, what strategy, what vision would it validate if Apple sold a laser printer? So I would make the case that a laser printer from Apple would be viable, but it's not valuable and it's not validating. So as an entrepreneur, I'd like to ask you to have a higher standard, that you do a MVVVP. Make sure your product or service is viable, valuable, and validating. The third step is to get going. You know, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this concept that we're going to wait for this perfect world. You know, this perfect world where we have all the money we need. It's a large and growing market with no competition, and we have a world-class team. Okay? That world will never happen. If that's your attitude as an entrepreneur, stay at Bank of America. Learn COBOL. Do something safe, all right? Go to work for Goldman Sachs. You don't have to do anything. It's a very, very, very different world. You need to get going. So here's the keys to get going. You're going to do something cringeworthy. And by this I mean that someday you're going to look back on your first product or service, and if you're lucky, because you've survived, you're going to look back and say, what the hell were we thinking? How could we have shipped that? Like I look back at the Macintosh 128K, 128K of RAM. We thought that was an ocean of RAM. It had a 400K floppy drive. We were working on a secret 5 megabyte. You millennials, you don't even know what a megabyte is, right? Your whole life is measured in terabytes. 5 megabytes. You know, what are people going to do with all that storage? My God. Thanks to my efforts, there was no software for 2 years. I cringe when I think about the Mac 128K. But yet it was the start of a revolution. Start of a revolution. And I think the way you look at it is, if you didn't ship something cringeworthy, you waited too long. You should cringe. The first book that I wrote, called The Macintosh Way, I look back on it now and I think the writing is so crude. I actually cringe about that book. It's okay to do something cringeworthy. Get started. Number 2 is to find complementary soulmates. Complementary soulmates means that, first of all, the complementary word. Complementary word means that fundamentally in a startup, you need 2 functions. Somebody can make it and somebody can sell it. Duh, that's it. Okay? Make and sell. Steve and Woz, that's what you need. Now, if everybody can make but nobody can sell, you won't have any revenue. And if everybody can sell but nobody can make, you won't have anything to sell. So that's why you need to find people who are complementary. Now, they need to be soulmates. And by soulmates, I mean that you need to be on the same page. That if some of you think it's a lifestyle company, but some of you think of it's a mission from God, you're on different pages. If somebody thinks it's built to flip, you want to just quickly turn it over, and other people think we're going to dedicate our lives to make this company successful and it's going to last forever, you're not on the same page. So you need to find people who have different skill sets from you, but have the same orientation towards the company as you, a soulmate. The third thing is to make a mantra. A mantra is a 2 or 3 word explanation of why you should exist. Pardon me. So, many companies, especially startups who are overeducated, make a mission statement. Let's talk about mission statements. So mission statements are typically 50, 60 words long, right? Have you ever heard a mission statement where the person says, our mission statement is to create innovative, patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, enterprise scalable products that provide a attractive return to our shareholders while enabling our employees to self-actualize their life goals, while establishing close relationships with our partners, while killing as few dolphins and whales as possible. I hear those kind of mission statements all day long. So what I want you to do instead is to make a mantra for your company. 2 or 3 words. I'll give you some mantras. So I think the mantra for Nike would be authentic athletic performance. The mantra for Google, democratize information. The mantra for Canva, online graphics design service, we democratize design. 2, 3 words that explain why you exist, right? Uber, democratize limousines. You know, it's something like that. Make a mantra. Get going. Third point. The third point is to define a business model. And this is kind of a duhism, right? You would think everybody would define a business model, but it's not true. Many people think that they can just wave their hands and get funding. It's because everybody reads Mashable, TechCrunch, and Verge every day, and every day there's like 20 stupid companies that are funded. You think, well, my company's not as stupid as this company, so how hard could it be? Oh, that's not a good test. That's not a good test. So I want you to define a business model. These are some keys to defining a business model. First of all, be specific. You know, no more hand-waving about, well, let's see, there are 300 million Americans, and so, you know, we're after the knowledge worker Americans, so that's 100 million Americans, and, you know, we want these people to be upper income, college educated, and so, you know, you think you're describing this really attractive market. If you're in enterprise software, you say, well, we're an enterprise software company. But that's not good enough. You need to say, we're an enterprise software company. We focus on the biotech industry. Specifically, the department that runs the FDA test. We provide software to help biotech companies administer their FDA trials. A very good model is to think of a person in a company, or if you're a consumer goods, a specific person, and think of that person and say to yourself, that woman who works in Genentech, in this FDA compliance, you know, process department, she has our money in her budget. And our business plan is going to take that money from her budget and put it into our budget. That's the plan. That's how specific it should be. Second point is to keep it simple. You know, I love Mark Benioff. He's clearly revolutionize business models, but generally speaking, it's hard enough to create an innovative product. I would not add the pressure to yourself of creating an innovative business model. Just make it for $1, sell it for $5. That's the best business model. It's really simple. And if you're not good in math, if you make it for $1 and sell it for $5 and believe that's 20% margin, I guarantee you will be successful in life. Okay? Keep it simple. The third point is to ask women. Now, this is not a popular thing, what I say, with men. But I believe that when you have a business model and you have an idea, you should always ask women what they think of it. You should not waste your time asking men. And I'll tell you why. Because men have a fundamental genetic flaw. This fundamental genetic flaw is in our genetic code, and we, men, we want to kill things. Men are predisposed to wanting to kill plants, animals, other people, countries, products, services, right? Men love to kill stuff. So, if you ask a man, should I create this product to kill YouTube, to kill Microsoft, to kill Apple? Every man will always say, yeah, let's do that. Let's kill those companies. Women do not have this fundamental genetic flaw. So when you come up with an idea and you need a business model and you need an opinion, only ask women. Do not bother asking men. Third point of a business model. Next step is to weave a mat. So I need to use a hockey analogy. I love hockey. And one of the pleasures of hockey is you go out on that ice right after the Zamboni and it's smooth, right? And there's no snow all over the place and it's really a beautiful thing. It's much like skiing, the first person down the mountain in the morning. And a new company is just like getting on the ice right after the Zamboni or getting on the ski slope right in the morning. So compared to an existing company has this pain-in-the-ass customer install base. They expect everything free, bug-free, cheap, all that. And you have all this crappy architecture that you don't know what the hell you were thinking when you made that architecture. And you want to throw it away, but there's not enough time to throw it away. You have these employees you wish you never had hired. Their sole qualification was they're in the same frat or sorority with you. You got this crappy furniture that, someday in a weak moment you went to IKEA and bought this crappy furniture because you thought you were going to bootstrap your waist. It's all sawhorses. And you have all this crap, and every day you want to say, oh, gee, I wish you could just start all over. So that's not what you have in an existing company. That's what you have in an existing company. In a new company, it's like virgin ice, virgin snow. And so when you have that situation, you lose track of what's important. Because everything looks like so fun. Let's go to IKEA and buy the new kind of, furniture. And let's go to Kinko's and we'll design our new logo and then we'll print our new business cards and we'll get we'll get them from Mint and we'll get these tiny little business cards that nobody over 50 can read. And, let's have all this cool stuff. And so what I mean with this recommendation is you need to weave a mat. This is priorities. So, what's the most important thing for a company? You have to do milestones. Now, milestone is not, we went to Kinko's and we ordered business cards. I don't want to break your heart. That's not a milestone. A milestone, good test for a milestone is you would call up your spouse and say, honey, today we did this. Honey, today we finished the architecture. Honey, today we shipped. Honey, today we collected. Honey, today we went to version 2. You do not call up your spouse, your significant other, and say, honey, today we ordered business cards. Are we not great entrepreneurs? It's not a milestone. Next, you have to test your assumptions. How many calls per day can you make? The next most important thing. I've sat in so many pitches where, it goes something like this. 300 million Americans, 1 in 4 owns a dog, 75 million dogs. Each dog eats 2 cans of dog food per day, 150 million cans of dog food per day, total addressable market. Dogs, unlike the enterprise business, dogs eat 365 days a year. This is not B2B, this is B2C, or more accurately, B2D, right? So, we have a total addressable market of 150 million cans of dog food per day times 365. How hard could it be for our rock star programmers that we met in our frat one night drunk? To get 1% of this, 1% of 150 million is 1.5 million cans per day times 365. We're talking 600 million cans of dog food per day. Worst case, conservatively speaking, right? Well, that's the top-down analysis. The bottom-up analysis is, well, let's see, using all our black hat, SEO, magic, trickery, all the stuff we're going to game the system, all our content marketing, social media, we think we can get maybe 100,000 uniques to dogfoods.com. 100,000 uniques a month, let's say, conservatively speaking, 1% buys a case of dog food, right? So that's 1,000 cases a month. 1,000 cases times 25 in a case, that's 25,000 cans of dog food per month. So on the one hand, from the bottom up, we have 25,000. On the other hand, we have 1.5 million. That's a little bit of disparity between 25,000 and 1.5 million. And guess which end of the spectrum you're more likely to be? 25,000. This is why you need to test your assumptions. The third priority is to launch, right? To open up, to see, do people really, quote unquote, eat the dog food? And then the fourth thing is finally you do tasks. So the tasks enable you to do tests, to test assumptions, to accomplish milestones. This is the pecking order of priorities in startups. Next point is to tell your story. I think that many entrepreneurs, they make a mistake that they are not able to tell their story. They stand up on a stage like this, at a conference like this, and they basically say we have patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, educational, revolutionary software that can scale, right? Everybody says that. And, the problem with this is that happened at 2:30, 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30, and 5. Everybody says this. I like to use what's called the opposite test. And the way the opposite test works is, pretend that you attend the session of your competition. Now, does your competition say, we have a piece of crap that's buggy, slow, hard to use, and cannot scale? Because if your competition says that, then hallelujah. You can say you have a beautiful piece of software that's fast, can scale, and is bug-free. But basically, everybody uses the same adjectives, right? You will notice through this conference, everybody is going to say innovative, patent-pending, revolutionary, results-oriented. I can give you all the buzzwords. Nobody ever says anything different. So if you all say the same thing, you are all saying nothing. Apply the opposite test. Number 2 is to make it personal. So I think you should tell a story. Tell a story of why you started this company because your daughter or your son was challenged. He was a different kind of learner. Or that your spouse was a teacher and he or she needed this kind of technology. Some great stories from Silicon Valley. The story of Apple. 2 guys wanting to know why was it so hard to use a personal computer? Why was it so expensive? Why were personal computers? That's an oxymoron back in the 1970s. Pierre Madiar, the founder of eBay, tells this great story that his girlfriend at the time was a toy collector. And she wanted to sell her Pez dispenser online. There was no way to sell her Pez collection online. So he started eBay. What a great story. Total bullshit. Okay? Total bullshit story. They made that story up after the fact. Okay? Pierre Omidyar really wanted to create a system where marginal costs and marginal revenue cross. That's the perfect market clearing price, right? But imagine if he said that I have patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting technology to enable marginal costs and marginal returns to intersect on a graph for a perfect market. That's not nearly as compelling as my girlfriend wanted to sell Pez dispensers online, and I gave her the ability to do that, and lo and behold, I discovered that, it's not just Pez dispensers that people want to buy and sell. There's printers, there's Ferraris, there's used, all kinds of stuff, and my God, I had no idea. I thought I was just making a Pez dispenser clearance sale. Make it personal. Make it personal. Third thing is to embrace the 10-20-30 rule. The 10-20-30 rule is that the optimal number of slides in a presentation is 10. 10. You'd be lucky to get 10 points across. Now, you're not a stupid audience. You're going to say, Guy, listen, you're talking about 10 slides, but, you're like 20 or 30 already. It's like, what's up with that, right? Am I a hypocrite? Well, let me explain. You are not me, okay? 10 slides. 10 slides. You should be able to give these 10 slides in 20 minutes. Now, question is, why 20 minutes? It's because To my utter frustration, to this day, 90% of this world uses Windows laptops, right? And if you've ever had a pitch by anybody with a Windows laptop, you know that you have to allocate 40 minutes for them to make it work with the projector. Right? So I started at 3, it's 3:30, now the projector is working right. Right? So 20 minutes. And 30 is the 30-point font. I think the ideal font size for a presentation is 30 points. A very good rule of thumb is figure out who the oldest person is in the audience, divide his or her age by 2. 60-year-old people, divide by 2, 30 points. 50-year-old people, divide by 2, 25 points. Someday you may be meeting a 16-year-old VC. God bless you, 8-point font that day. I'm going to sneeze. Thank you. You know the sound guy back there? If he were really watching me carefully, he'd say, "Guy's about to sneeze, mute his mic." Okay, so 10th slide. Now they're gonna stick it to me. They're gonna make all my slides not work. Yeah, I know that. Former Microsoft employee, PowerPoint product manager back there. So 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font. And then I'm going to give you a power tip. No. Actually, you think they did that to me, right? Yeah. No. This is the point. So I have one more power tip for you. Not a lot of people agree with this, but I think you should always make your background black. So this is the white version of the previous slide. This slide is not as good. And I'll tell you why. It's because black on white, it hurts the eyes. Like you all sort of squinted when it came up, right? It's like too bright. And I also believe that black on white, what it's communicating is, I'm a clueless person who booted PowerPoint. I inserted a text box and I started typing. That's what black on white means. White on black means I'm a craftsman. I know what I'm doing with PowerPoint. I went to the master page. I created a black background. I changed the font to a simple sans serif bold font in white because I want you to have a great presentation. That's what white on black means. Black on white means I'm clueless. So I promise you, just change the background to black and the font to white and you will double the quality of your presentation. I absolutely promise you. Now, let me tell you a story. So one day, I'm at GSV in Redwood City. And they had this thing where entrepreneurs came in and pitched. So it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. And this entrepreneur, who was from Atlanta, he was black, says to me, "You know, Guy, I pitched at 9. I pitch again this afternoon at 2. So I have a few hours for free. Do you have any tips for me about how I can make my presentation better?" And so I said, "Is your background black?" And he says to me, "Well, yeah, I'm from Atlanta, multicultural family." I said, "No, I can see you're black. I want to know if your PowerPoint background is black. Black is the new black, okay?" Number 7. Number 7 is to hire infected people. By this I mean, you need to ignore the irrelevant. So I think many people, when they hire, they look for things like educational background. They look for things like work experience, relevancy. Then they may even check the box of cultural fit, whatever that is. I would make the case that in many instances, those things may be irrelevant. And so there's two kinds of irrelevancy. One is, if you find a person who is culturally fit, right education background, right work experience, but you can tell that this person doesn't think that what your company does is utterly fantastic, that it's going to change the world, that it has changed his or her pulse. I would make the case that that perfect background is irrelevant. If the person is not excited about what you do, ignore the perfect candidate. The flip side is also true, where you find somebody. This person doesn't have the right educational background, doesn't have the right work experience, may not even seem to be culturally the same kind of person. But you can tell this person just loves what you do. You should hire that person. You should learn to ignore what's irrelevant. You know, in my case, when I started working for Apple in the mid-'80s, I fundamentally came from the jewelry business. I never worked in tech before. So I literally worked for a small jewelry manufacturing company in downtown Los Angeles, counting diamonds. My degree was in psychology because it was the easiest degree I could find. So educationally and work experience, I was absolutely wrong, right? I don't know how they would have looked at me on paper and said, well, let's bring in the kid who, has been counting diamonds for the last 4 years, who has a degree in psychology. That's right in our wheelhouse for the person who's going to go and evangelize programmers to write Macintosh software. Right? And it was because I truly love Macintosh. When I saw Macintosh for the first time, it was a freaking religious experience. I'm telling you, the clouds parted. Sunshine broke through. Angels started singing. I knew that this was the future. I just ask you to consider more things besides education, work experience, and cultural fit. Add this other value. Does the person get it? And does the person love it? Next thing is to hire better than yourself. Very hard to do, very easy to say. Right? So if you're an engineer in particular, you often think, well, engineering is hard. Sales, finance, operations, everything else is easy. So typically you try to hire and you're better than everybody else. Right? And that is an embarrassment. You should hire people who are better. It should be a source of pride that the person you hire for sales is better than you at sales. Because God help you, if you're an engineer and you hire somebody who is not as good as you to run sales, my God, hire better than yourself. At the Macintosh division, we had a saying that A players hire A players. I have further revised this to A players hire A plus players. And it should be a source of pride to you that everybody around you is better than you. That would be a great company. And third thing is to apply the shopping center test. The way the shopping center test works is you're at a shopping center. You see a candidate at your company. Distance is from here to the back wall. I see that person. I know that person is interviewing at my company. So what is my reaction? I can go straight to that person and say, hi, how are you? We are democratizing design. I hope you join Canva. We are going to kick Adobe's ass, right? Please join us. We love designers. We love engineers. Join us. We're going to change the world. Or I can say, well, this shopping center is not that big. If by chance, we both go to Lululemon and we get face-to-face, I'll say hello. Third reaction is, I'm going to get in my car and go to another shopping center. My shopping center test is for startup. If you see somebody who's interviewing at your company and that person has not yet seen you, the test is, would you go right up to that person and say hello? That's the test. That's the test, the shopping center test. The eighth point is to socialize. You know what? Social media is the best thing that ever happened to entrepreneurship. Because marketing used to be expensive. Just to date myself, you used to spend $75,000 to run an ad in the Wall Street Journal. You used to have a booth at CES or Comdex. You used to have to hire a PR firm. It's a very different world right now with social media. Social media is fast, and it's free, and it's ubiquitous, and it's a meritocracy. The better you are at social media, the better it is for you. And my observation is the ability to spend money on social media is inversely related to the quality of your social media, which is to say, the more you spend, the less well you do. So let's talk about social media. The first thing is you've got to perfect your profiles, whether it's for you as a person or for your brand. Because social media, I'll use a dating analogy. So there's two kinds of dating sites, right? There's eHarmony. At eHarmony, you fill out 29 fields of psychographic information because you're going to find your soulmate. at eHarmony, right? This is the man or woman that you're going to hold hands walking on windswept beaches in your Birkenstock sandals. You're going to be drinking white wine. Your kids are at home asleep, perfect, Johnny and Tiffany. Their GPA is 4.2. Their rigor is 10. They have SAT scores of 2,400, even after the new SAT scores. This is without tutoring, and they have this like existential crisis. Dartmouth, Stanford, right? So that's the purpose of eHarmony. You find a soulmate. At the opposite end of dating is Tinder. Interesting, not interesting, interesting, not interesting, right? You're flicking slower than you've decided, right? It's less than a second. I would make the case that today marketing is Tinder. You're not going to spend all this time figuring out your psychographic match to your customers. You're just going to look and decide on social media. Serious, not serious. Worth of following, not worth following. Buy, not buy. And to do that, you have to perfect your profiles, your avatar, and your covers. Next thing is to embrace what I call the Wikipedia model. So Wikipedia, let me tell you something. They raise roughly $75 million a year. Okay? $75 million. And they do it by putting this really intrusive banner on Wikipedia articles. And it's full of text, and it's not beautiful, and it's not graphic, and but they raise $75 million. And why is that? It's because people feel a sense of obligation to Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia has democratized all this knowledge for free. You can get it anywhere. So people feel a moral obligation to donate money. It's just like NPR. NPR provides great content all year long. Every few months, it runs the pledge drive. What other organization besides Wikipedia and NPR could run a pledge drive or stick an ugly banner on top of the site that you want to read? Nobody. It's because they provide such great value. Who among us, when we listen to the NPR pledge drive, who among us is saying, yeah, I love the pledge drive, right? Like, I've been waiting for this pledge drive because, man, I'm going to match the $10 a month, dollar for dollar donation of Microsoft, and I'm going to get the Eton hand crank radio, baby, because, Putin is there. Maybe there's going to be a nuclear war. I want to crank that radio, find out how I'm going to die, right? So I want you to embrace the Wikipedia or NPR model and provide great content on social media so that every once in a while you can run your pledge drive. Pledge drive meaning buy our product, try our product. That's your pledge drive, but you have to earn that right. Think of Wikipedia and NPR. And the last thing is to pass the Reshare test. The way social media works is what you share, the best test of it is that it is so good that not only will your followers read it, they will share it to their followers. So to use a restaurant analogy, you can tip the waiter and never talk about the restaurant again. But if you go to the office the next day and say, I ate at Roy's last night, and the cow beef ribs were amazing. The crusted macadamian, mahi-mahi was fantastic, and they made this chocolate souffle. You have got to eat at Roy's. It's at the Marriott next door, by the way. That, I am now risking my reputation. I'm risking my reputation. If you go to eat at Roy's and it sucks, you think Guy is a loser, right? I'm risking my reputation. I tipped the waiter at Roy's, but now I'm going on the record and I'm risking my reputation to tell you to eat at Roy's. That's what you should think about in social media. Is what you're posting so interesting that people will reshare it and risk their reputation? The ninth thing is to seed the clouds. Seeding the clouds is about making sales. I have a theory that when all is said and done in a startup, tweet this, okay? Sales fixes everything. All the bullshit about your strategic partnerships, all the promise you've shown, all the patents you've filed, it's all bullshit, okay? Sales fixes everything. Because when you have sales and you have revenue, you have proof to your investors that you're making progress. Anybody can be in some developer program and say you have a partnership with Apple or a partnership with Google or a partnership with Microsoft or anybody. Sales is what counts. Sales, when you have sales, okay, then you can buy the sand volleyball court. You can get the ping pong tables. You can have sushi delivered. You can have massages at your desk. You can have free dry cleaning. You can have the buses that pick up your millennials that have Wi-Fi on the bus, okay? Sales fixes everything. So you have to understand that, if you had buses with Wi-Fi, and you had sushi, and you had Thai food, and free dry cleaning, and dental, and all that sand volleyball, that doesn't cause a great company. That's correlated with some great companies. So it is all about sales. So first thing is let 100 flowers blossom. But this, stolen from Chairman Mao, though I fail to see how he ever implemented this. Although he may have let 100 flowers blossom and then cut them off. Let 100 flowers blossom means that at the start of your company, you may think you have a very good knowledge of who your customer is and how they should use your product. And you may be in for a rude awakening that, well, at the worst case, nobody uses your product. But you may find that people who you never anticipated as your customer use your product. And lo and behold, this scares a lot of people. My God, the wrong people are using our products in large quantities. Okay? My advice to you, if this ever happens to you, take the money. Right? Sales fixes everything. No venture capitalist is ever going to say, you're getting the wrong kind of high volume sales. Trust me when I tell you that. So with Macintosh, we thought we had a spreadsheet database for processing machine. It's the mid-'80s. We were 0 for 3. Luckily, there was a flower called PageMaker. PageMaker created a forest called desktop publishing. Desktop publishing saved Apple, right? No desktop publishing, no Apple. Think of a world without Apple today, right? FBI would have access to every phone. Batteries would last for more than a day. You could put a phone in your pocket and it wouldn't bend. GPS would actually work. It would be a different world. I think all this PageMaker literally was a gift from God to save Apple. Really, I really do believe that. And I believe in God. And one of the reasons why I believe in God is that there is no other explanation for Apple's continued success. Let 100 flowers blossom. If you're the CMO of Avon and you introduce a line of cosmetics called Skin So Soft, well, you don't need an MBA to figure out what's the purpose of Skin So Soft. Duh, it's beauty, it's soft skin. Then you find out that women are buying Skin So Soft as an insect repellent. Oops. Your positioning was kinder and gentler than DDT. That wasn't your positioning. What do? Do you panic? Do you, have an off-site at the Ritz-Carlton? Do you bring in a meeting facilitator saying, damn it, women are buying this as an insect repellent, not as beauty. We need to tell women to buy this for beauty, not insect repellent. I'm telling you, again, sales fixes everything. Take the money. Let 100 flowers blossom. Next point is to enable test drives. Basically, you say to people, I think you're smart. Because I think you're smart, I'm going to enable you to try my software, my car, whatever it is. You're saying to people, you're smart, as opposed to we're going to bludgeon you into becoming our customers. Enable test drives. And the last thing is to find the influencers. Now, this is kind of a duh-ism. Duh, you want to find the influencers. But I would make the case today that with social media, it's a whole different market in influencers, right? So it used to be that you sucked up to the Wall Street Journal because on Thursday in the Wall Street Journal, somebody wrote a column and they said, use this spreadsheet, use this product, use this app, whatever. And because we all listen to the Wall Street Journal says use this, we all go use that, right? I think that world is different. I think right now, the influencers are nobodies, that nobodies are the new somebodies. And in this world, it means if you need to find this influencer, you're going to have to spread a lot of seeds. Because it's easy to hire a PR firm and say, okay, so get us to Wall Street Journal, Verge, Mashable, TechCrunch, Gizmodo, how hard could that be? There's 20 of them. But if it's lonelyboy15 at AOL.com, who's living with his mother, sleeping on Buzz Lightyear sheets, this is a whole different world in marketing. You need to be willing to find those influencers. Now, I'm not saying if the Wall Street Journal or TechCrunch decides to write a story about your company, you should refuse that. I'm not saying that. But I think you'll find that, for most of you, if you're quote-unquote featured in TechCrunch or Verge or Mashable, one of 50 stories, your website will go from 500 visitors to 5,000 visitors for 2 days. And on the third day, you're back to 500. You need to find the influencers. And that's what social media is particularly good about, finding the influencers. Number 10 is my final point, which is don't let the clowns grind you down. There are going to be clowns that you're going to encounter. There are two kinds of clowns. I like to call them bozos in the world. There are two kinds of bozos in the world. One bozo, slovenly, disgusting, body odor, pocket protector. You look at this person with a Japanese watch and a rusty car, and you say, you are a loser. This is not the dangerous bozo. Because only a loser would listen to a loser. Okay? You're not losers, you don't have to fear dangerous bozos, or you don't have to fear loser bozos because only a loser would listen to a loser. The dangerous bozo is the winner bozo. Let's describe the winner bozo. The winner bozo is rich and successful. The winner bozo dresses in all black. The winner bozo has a lot of things that end in I, like Armani, Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari. Audi is okay. Audi's an exception to this rule. And so you look at that and you say, wow, rich and famous must parse to smart. But my observation is that rich and famous parses to lucky half the time, not necessarily smart. So you have to be careful who you listen to when it's rich and famous people. Should you listen to Tom Cruise about spiritual issues? Not clear. Should you listen to Kim Kardashian about family relations? Not clear. So I think that this cluelessness, this bozosity, is kind of a disease. And so how do you prevent the flu? Another disease. You take a little bit of flu with a shot so that when you encounter big flu, your body has already built up the resistance. So I'm going to give you some shots of bozosity. So as entrepreneurs, when you encounter bozosity, you'll have built up resistance. Okay? So, number 1, I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. Thomas Watson, chairman of IBM, allegedly said this. 5 computers. I have 5 Macintoshes in my house. I have all the computers he anticipated in the world in my house. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us. Western Union. How many of you have used Western Union lately? Yeah. How about PayPal or Bitcoin or Square? How about that? And, Western Union was so successful in the telegraph curve, it didn't embrace the telephone curve, much less the internet curve. Maybe the strategic direction for Western Union in 1876 was, let's teach Americans the Morse code. How hard could it be? We'll teach Americans the Morse code, and then we can put a telegraph in every house. We can get these long, long bales of wire, string it behind their horse-driven carts, and you could telegraph when you're in a cart, right? That's the future of transportation and communication. They wrote off telephony in 1876. Why aren't they Square? Why aren't they Bitcoin? Why aren't they a modern form of financial transaction? There's no reason why anyone would want a computer in their home. Ken Olsen, fantastic entrepreneur, fantastic innovator. 1977, he said this. So imagine you're Steve and Woz, and you go to Las Vegas for Comdex or CES, and all your advisors are telling you, you need to get somebody with experience, relevant industry experience, someone who has built a computer company to help you, figure out how to do Apple, how to make Apple scale, how to make Apple successful. And in that discussion, Ken Olsen would have been one of the best people in the world to be an advisor for Apple, right? He created DEC, my God, digital equipment, how successful. So let's say that Steve and Woz go to Las Vegas, and they're at Caesar's Palace or MGM Grand, and they happen to run into Ken Olsen in the elevator, and they say, Mr. Olsen, we want to pitch you on our company. We believe the computer should be smaller, cheaper, and easy to use. So small, so cheap, so easy to use, Mr. Olsen, you could have a computer in your house. And the elevator opens in the casino, and Mr. Olsen says, you know what? There is no reason, son, why anyone would want a computer in their home. So before you ruin your life, study COBOL and come work for DEC. And there would be no Apple today. I'm not saying Ken Olsen was not a great entrepreneur and a great innovator, but you know what? When you're so successful on one curve, it's so hard to get to the next curve, right? So, I don't see a lot of hotels jumping on Airbnb. I don't see a lot of taxi cab companies jumping on the Uber curve, I don't see a lot of established car companies jumping on the autonomous car curve. It's because you're so successful. But when you're so successful, people think that, oh, you should be able to embrace and predict the future. I think that is one of the hardest things to do because you're so wired into a computer is dumb, talking to a brain centrally. We have one brain, lots of dumb terminals. That's so different from lots of little computers with littler brains, but brains nonetheless. Such a different paradigm. So my last piece of advice for you is don't let the bozos grind you down. The last thing I'm going to tell you, because I have 17 seconds, 14 right now, is we passed out a little card for you. This green card is from Canva. If you ever need to make graphics, wow, tough crowd. If you need to make graphics, please check out Canva. Think of it as a fast, free, easy way to make graphics. And I could tell you that you can probably finish graphics in Canva faster than you can boot Photoshop. Okay? And that is the art of the start. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.